The northern coast of Africa was brought under the control of the Ottoman Empire early on. It remained largely independent until 1832. The word translated in the King James Bible comes from the word Cushite, which was translated into Latin as. This area anciently referred to the land bordering on the south of Egypt. The Libyans and the Ethiopians were perfectly described when said to be at the steps of the king of the north. But tidings out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him. Therefore he shall go forth with great fury to destroy, and utterly to make away many. The king of the north is inarguably the Ottoman Empire. Therefore, tidings out of the east and out of the north would be news coming from the east and north of the Ottoman Empire, not the east and north of Palestine. One of the unexpected results of France's invasion of Egypt was the alliance of the Ottoman Empire with her northern neighbour, Russia. The two had been at war for centuries. The Russo-Turkish wars spanned 5 centuries and are among the longest-lasting disputes in the history of Europe. During these conflicts, the Ottoman Empire steadily lost land to the Russian Empire. Persia lay east of the Ottoman Empire. In the early 1800s, Persia and Russia were involved in 2 wars. Persia lost the war and land to Russia. The Russian victories freed the peoples of Transcaucasia from the yoke of the Persian feudal lords, and these peoples actively supported the Russian forces during the wars. Russia, by annexing land from Persia, partially encircled the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire was pressured from both the north and the east. This was the news out of the north and the east that troubled the king of the north. The vast majority of Ottomans were Muslim, while the Russians were Christian. This created religious tensions. When the Tsar ordered the Muslims expelled from the North Caucasus, it resulted in a genocide that cost the lives of 1.5 million Muslims. Any survivors fled southward to the Ottoman Empire. Vengeance came less than 60 years later. During and directly following World War I, the Turks were responsible for the Armenian genocide, the Greek genocide, and the Assyrian genocide, in which upwards of 3 million Christians lost their lives due to the suspicion that, as Christians, they were sympathetic to Russia. These tragedies can be directly traced back to the King of the South pushing at the willful king, France, and the overwhelming reaction of the King of the North in response to the French invasion. And he shall plant the tabernacles of his palace between the seas in the glorious holy mountain, yet he shall come to his end, and none shall help him. A number of Bible scholars in the 19th century suggested the Ottoman Empire was the King of the North. As the King of the North, they predicted the Ottoman Empire would transfer its headquarters to Jerusalem. When the Ottoman Empire dissolved following World War I without this ever happening, many assumed their interpretation was incorrect. This assumption, however, is based on a misunderstanding of the word tabernacles. When correctly understood, it is clearly seen that the King of the North is the Ottoman Empire, and he did plant the tabernacles of his palace between the seas in the glorious holy mountain. In other words, the Ottoman Sultan established his political presence between the Jordan River on the east and the Mediterranean Sea on the west. The word tabernacle comes from a Hebrew word meaning a tent or covering. The children of Israel tabernacled in the wilderness. It is the same word used repeatedly to describe both the tent of meeting and the sanctuary. A tabernacle is a temporary dwelling place. Here, a record of history again confirms the accuracy of prophetic utterance. Beginning in the late 1890s, agitation grew for the establishment of a permanent homeland for the Jews with Jerusalem as the capital. The problem was, Palestine was still under the control of the Ottoman Empire. Abdul Hamid II, Sultan of the Ottoman Empire and Caliph of the Ottoman Caliphate, saw the increased interest foreign powers had in territories belonging to him. He responded in a way that perfectly fulfills the prophecy. Hamid sent officials from his own palace to govern the province around Jerusalem. He wanted officials there to keep him informed of any attempts by foreign governments to seize the area. The Sultan's concerns were well-founded. For the next 2 decades, agitation for a Jewish homeland increased. Finally, in 1922, the League of Nations passed the British Mandate for Palestine. This mandate took Palestine from Turkey and unilaterally gave it over to British control. The Sultan did not need to move his entire government to Jerusalem in order to fulfill Daniel 11 verse 45. The prophecy was fulfilled when he deliberately moved part of his government to Jerusalem to meet the growing threat of Zionist expansionism. The mighty Ottoman Empire, feared scourge of the Crusaders, came to its end, not with a bang, but withering away into nothingness. The Ottoman Empire was not conquered by some other nation, it came to its end internally. Mustafa Kemal, a Turkish military officer, gave the Ottoman Empire a deadly wound from which it has never, and from which it will never, recover. Kemal founded the modern Republic of Turkey. He abolished both the Ottoman Sultanate and the Islamic Caliphate. Kemal ensured that the new government would remain secular by deliberately severing Turkish law from Islamic Sharia law, and he made this separation a part of the Turkish constitution. Kemal made it impossible for the Ottoman Empire and the Caliphate to ever be revived. The King of the North had come to his end and none helped him. Turkey has fulfilled its destined role in prophecy. There is nothing more to be fulfilled in the prophecy of Daniel 11. Anything more that occurs in Turkey falls within the parameters of the time of trouble that began in 1922 when the King of the North came to his end with no one to help him. The entire build-up of Daniel 11 was for one purpose and one purpose only: to identify when probation will close. This is a very solemn realization. The angel told Daniel, "And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book.